What's up, everybody? Back with another NFL Week 5 video. First round of bye weeks in Week 5. We're going to be going through all the games with against the spread and just straight up. Let's get it going. But first, as always, don't forget to like the video. If you're enjoying the content, comment with who you're taking this week, or if you got any questions about what you think you'd like to bet. And as always, subscribe to the channel to keep getting this and other great NFL content.
Yeah, as Woj mentioned, first bye week of the NFL season. Got the Lions, Chargers, Eagles, and Titans off in week 5. So we got two less matchups this week, but we'll kick it off with this Thursday night matchup. A NFC South divisional game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off the big win against the Eagles. Really took the lead at the start of the game and ran away with it. They're coming in as a 1.5 point dog heading into Atlanta, who just pulled off the other divisional win against the Saints on a game-winning field goal. Falcons sitting at 2-2, Bucks at 3-1 on the season. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this matchup.
Yeah, it's really these two teams play very different style of football where you see the Bucks, they're able to put up a bunch of points really on the back of Baker Mayfield and this really strong receiving core as you get Chris Godwin and Mike Evans still getting it done this late in their career. On the opposite end, the Falcons, the bread and butter is the run games behind that great offensive line. And so my initial thought was I like the Bucks here with the points. Looking into PFF now, which I think after 4 weeks starts to become a little bit more reliable. One of the best run games in PFF grade is Atlanta, and then you're going up against the team against the Buccaneers that have, I think, the third lowest run graded defense, and to pair that up with the fourth worst tackling defense. So I think that could really get the Bucks into trouble. This is a really tough line for me to pick, but because of the run game and the home field advantage against the divisional opponent, I think I'm going to take the Falcons here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to run the ball a bit more. They're bottom 10 in rush attempts per game, but like you said, the run game's been very effective for them. When you got a guy like Bijan, you just want to give him some more touches on the ground. But yeah, I think if they use the run game early and often, I think they should control the pace in this game, really put some pressure on Baker, make some plays against that secondary. But and just another point, and really my main reason for my play in this game, I'm also on the Falcons. But if you check the injury report after this Sunday, the Bucks had 14 new players on the injury report, and the Falcons had two. So I mean, just purely personnel wise, I mean, not all those guys in the Bucks are going to be out for this one, but a much more banged up team in Tampa. And
Definitely.
yeah, divisional game going to be close, but I am also leaning with Atlanta. I think this team is good. They just need to find their identity still in the early season.
Well said.
Next up, we got our London game going into Sunday. Probably one of the better London matchups we've ever had. But we got the 2-2 Jets to almost everyone's surprise, coming off that 10-9 loss to the Broncos. But they're playing the Vikings, who's given up one of their home games on the season for this London matchup. They're 4-0, arguably looking like the best football team in the NFL right now. And then just a fun stat for you, Darnold is the first QB in the modern era to win his first 4 games while also throwing multiple touchdowns, or with a new team at least. But yeah, I mean, Darnold's looked phenomenal. I mean, it's tough to look at these last few weeks and say you're taking the Jets, but I mean, personnel wise, this Jets defense on paper should be a lot better. Minus Brian Flores calling the schemes for Minnesota. So on this one too, I want to hear what you think. Do you think the Jets still win here in London, or are you all on board with the Vikings?
Yeah, if this line was -3.5, I would think a little bit differently. But showing -2.5 is like the ultimate trap line. All you got to do is talk yourself into the Vikings winning this game by a field goal, and you like this trap line. And I'm not, I've done really well this season identifying the trap lines and going against them. And I'm going to do it again here. I got the Jets to win this game. I don't think there's anything that I've seen that I could say here's X, Y, and Z why the Jets are going to win. They looked awful against the Broncos, and they looked awful at times. They've also looked really good at times. Something about this line is very indicative that they have some advantage over this Vikings team. They have a really good front seven. They could probably devote a lot of resources to the secondary, drop back seven, a lot of times only rush four in passing situations. You got a guy like Sauce Gardner, who is probably as well equipped as any cornerback in this league to at least slow down JJ as the best he can. Something here is being missed of why the Jets should be so close. And again, this 2.5 line is just the epitome of a trap line, and I'm not going to fall for it. So I'm on the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, if I am taking a side in this game, I'm also on the Jets. I mean, I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. I mean, it is a neutral site game, but you got the Jets coming off a bad loss. I think they're going to be a little bit more hungry for it. And then you might even have some fans just betting on the Vikings, getting a little bit of line movement, not looking into where this game's played at. But I think the line I like the most even is the under. I know how good the Vikings offense has been, but like you just said with Sauce, like if they could really slow down Justin Jefferson, and a lot easier said than done, but I think they could do a good job against this Vikings offense. We saw them really slow down in the second half against Green Bay, and then the Jets even last week really struggling against the Broncos. So I kind of like the under. Might be a little trap on a lower line with some decent quarterback play, but I just think the defenses here are at the top of the league right now.
I like that too.
Next up, we got Carolina heading as a 3.5 point dog. So almost an even matchup on a neutral site, but they're playing the Bears. And I feel like the big reason for this one is just how poor the Bears defense or offense has been. I mean, the defense is right up there with anybody in the league, but the Bears have struggled to move the ball, struggled to score. Did enough in the win against the Rams, but still missed a couple plays where they could have had another touchdown or two in that game. Not made it so close to really come down to that last Stafford interception. So, I mean, I'll take it first in this one. I like the Panthers plus 3.5. I think Dalton has really shown enough. In just those two games, he's the second in the league in QBR at the moment. Yeah, I think the Panthers stay enough in this game offensively. The Bears just beat a really beat up Rams team. Really looked like Stafford and Kyron was all they needed to stay in it. So I'm with Dalton. I think they can move the ball well enough, and I don't trust Chicago enough to put up big points. So I like the spread here of the Panthers.
Yeah, I do too with the Panthers plus 3.5. I will say I'm going to pick the Bears to win this game. And the reason is because the defense, well, one, just from on the Chicago side, but the Panthers, who, it's being masked by Andy Dalton's really solid play these last few weeks since he's taken over the offense. But that defense for the Carolina Panthers is still a really big problem. Bottom five PFF graded defense here. If the Bears should be able to take advantage of it, but with some of the play calling that is in Chicago, I'm not convinced it's going to. I think it's gonna be a close game. Thus, my 3.5 in the Panthers. But the Bears with the defense again, a couple of nice plays from Caleb Williams, who's looked better each week of the NFL season, and the fact that this Bears team has the right now the longest active winning streak at home. I'm going to hope the Bears can extend it here. But this is not probably one of my least confident picks. I can very easily see Andy Dalton revenge game against the Bears. People forget revenge game against the Bears where he could win this one outright.
Yeah,
Not
good call
confident
out.
on this one.
I like it. Next up, we got an NFC North matchup. NFC North, AFC
AFC.
North. A lot of order over here. But we got the Ravens who just beat the Bills in really convincing fashion. We called that one on our last video.
Hmm.
And then the Bengals finally picking up their first win of the season and really not too impressive of a win over the Panthers. Really let them hang around. The Bengals defense has looked like a liability all season so far. Um, but yeah, I think the Ravens are going to run all over the Bengals in this game. I know the Bengals need this one more. We've talked about a lot of games as must wins for them, but sitting at 1-3 in tough AFC conference, I think the Bengals need this game more. But I think the Ravens, they're just built well, like way too perfect to beat the Bengals. The Bengals are 25th in the league in runs or rushing yards conceded. They haven't been able to stop the run yet. Derrick Henry was just 1 yard shy of a 200-yard game. And I mean, you got Justice Hill, Lamar Jackson. I just think the Ravens could probably just run the ball every or almost every single play and come out with the win in this one. So I'm on the Ravens minus 2.5.
Yeah, everything you said is what I was going to echo. Like this is a Bengals defense that just let Chuba Hubbard, uh, run all over him for 100 plus yards here with the Panthers, as we just talked about. But as I said, once you see a line that's 2.5, you got to start asking questions. Uh, I don't know how the Bengals could possibly win this game. But this spread doesn't make any sense. This is one game I won't be betting the Ravens. And I probably won't bet the Panthers either, but there's something fishy to this line because, like you said, in theory, the Ravens should just be able to hand the ball to Derrick Henry, who's just trashed up the that Bills defense that's really good. Um, how does he not go for another 200? You would think that's taken into account in this spread, and obviously it is. So what am I missing here? I can't tell you. They definitely think that this Bengals offense has an advantage in terms of just passing the ball downfield. Pretty high total. They think they're going to put up a lot of points. And it's obviously going to be a close game here. Both teams are going to score 3 to 4 touchdowns. If the Bengals can get in front of it and put the Ravens in passing situations, that's
Yeah,
got to be the game script that happens. I would stay away from this one for sure. But this is really concerning me that the Bengals are going to win this game. If the Ravens were 4-0 here, this would be I'd be all over the Bengals. But the Ravens, they can't afford to drop below 500 either. So if you made me pick one, obviously I'm picking the Ravens here, but I don't like it.
yeah. No, I mean definitely a fishy line, but I mean I just from what we've seen, and that's often will bite you this early in the season. But I feel the Ravens are going to have it all
This
day
one's
on the
going to be really
ground.
close. Yeah.
Next matchup got an AFC matchup. Two teams sitting at 3-1. Bills coming off a loss. I know we like to keep our eyes on how these teams performed the last week. The Bills are coming
Yep.
off a loss, and the Texans just picked up a win against the Jags. Didn't look great. We're down for quite a bit of that game, but they still found a way to gut it out in the end. And CJ Stroud, I mean, he's been effective, third in the league in passing yards. And when you really take that one game away from Minnesota, he's the best quarterback in the league so far this season. I mean, he did throw two picks. You can't just completely throw that one away. But I want to hear where you're leaning in this one with the Texans as just 1.5 point favorites at home.
Yeah, this is a real tough one. I'm glad you mentioned the Bills are coming off a loss, not because we forgot about it, but because it's very relevant. And these great quarterbacks in the league, very rarely do they have back-to-back games where they underperform. Very rarely do they have back-to-back games where they drop losses, even when they're against really good teams like the Ravens and the Texans back-to-back here. That being said, it's like I like the Texans matchup here against really a lot of teams, but against the Bills too. They just have such a great passing attack and a great trio of wide receivers where I'm not so sure I believe in this Bills defense to stop them necessarily. And at times when Josh Allen can't get that run game going, or James Cook for that matter, behind the really revamped Bills offensive line, he doesn't always have that great rapport with, again, these receivers that, in the case of Keon Coleman is a rookie. Um, Curtis Samuel is his first year on the Bills team, and then even Khalil Shakir, who's been really good and had that connection. Um, He's only his third year as well. So there's a lot of these guys are in new spots, and I still think they're getting it together. And you saw the lack of explosiveness last week. I hate to read too much into it. But I just love the balance that is the Texans on both sides of the football. And I think I'm gonna take him here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also on the Texans, and like you said, I think it's a really good matchup for them. The Bills at the moment are bottom third in the league in coverage. Just talked about CJ Stroud throwing the ball extremely well. The Bills have really been living and dying on their pass rush. They have like I think it's the third rated pass rush, or it's up there according to
Mhm.
PFF. But then I mean Texans, you got Tunsil on the blind side. I mean you have a good enough pass rush grade where I think the Texans exploit the Bills' weaknesses. And kind of as you're getting at, like Josh Allen needs to have like an elite performance for them to win this game.
And
I'll
he
say,
definitely has that in him. Like he is an elite
right.
quarterback. So that's what
But
scares me.
like if you look at the
It's really
Bills,
hard for me to like Josh Allen to lose two in a row. That's what makes it so difficult for me to take the Texans here.
yeah, I mean, the Bills haven't played a team with a winning record yet. I know the Ravens don't really count for that criteria because we view them as a playoff team, but they didn't beat anyone really that impressive prior to the loss. So I don't know. The verdict might still be out on the Bills,
And you could say the
regardless
same
of tough
thing about the
matchup.
Texans, to be fair. Like the Texans haven't really beaten anybody. So you could say the same thing. I'll say this. I'm totally in on the Bills being a playoff team and a really good football team. Um, I can't. We'll go back and forth
I
on this
still
game
think they're
until
a
Sunday at
playoff team.
noon.
They're just, I'm not going to move on my stance that they're not better than they've been in like the last two
That's
years.
very fair. That's very fair. You got like you said, it's gonna hinge on this defense being at least above average. That's just what it takes at a minimum here to do well in the playoffs. But they've lost a lot of guys. A lot of the guys have stepped in and have been really solid. They just got to keep that going and prove that they can. This was a really good game for them to prove it.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see, but both of us on the Texans
Yep.
as of right now. Next up, another divisional matchup. Really get into those divisional games this week. Probably why we're seeing some of these closer spreads as well. We got the 2-2 Colts coming off of another win. Now that's two in a row now for them, but they're heading to Jacksonville. Um, it was now 0-4. They played the Texans hard, but just couldn't pull it out in the end. And this one's really interesting. I mean, I want to be all over the Jags for, I know you said you're going to keep taking them until they finally win that game. But
They cover the spread. They cover spread.
I
The
think
last game.
the wrinkle for me though is like at this point in the season, like I think Flacco's an upgrade for the Colts. Like we just saw what he did last year with Cleveland, really
Mhm.
running the table and making that team a real threat in the playoffs. So yeah, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this one because
Yeah.
yeah, going off of the wisdom we've been talking about, feels like a Jags pick, but I don't know. Going against Flacco makes this one different for me.
Yeah. So the 2.5 spread thing. Both cases before was when the team that's been playing better was given the 2.5 distinction, the Ravens and the Vikings. This team, the Jaguars, they shouldn't be favored ever. They're 0-4. They're a terrible football team. Yet they are favored here. Um, so I'm not backtracking on the 2.5 thing. It's a completely different circumstance where the worst team here is favored. So it's different. And I am taking the Jaguars. Again, this has been one of the ugliest looking teams in football. At once the Titans officially win this game, they will be the only 0-4 team. I like you saw them compete against the Texans. I really did think they were going to win that game. They have talent. Trevor Lawrence shows that he's got some talent in him, and he's somewhat deserving of that money, albeit not fully. I think that, especially with Jonathan Taylor, probably going to miss this game with that high ankle sprain. And even if he does play, he won't be nearly as effective. I'm going to go with Trey Sermon at running back. I think I like the Jaguars here to win this game.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
going to
mean,
take 2.5. I could see them pulling the Falcons and winning this game by two, losing by the hook. I wouldn't bet that, honestly, even though it's probably going to win. But the Jags will pick up their first win this week.
yeah, I mean Trevor Lawrence,
Or,
he's playing worse than his career averages. Like if anything
yeah.
says like by the numbers, he's going to play at least a little bit better than he has these first four games.
Yeah, if they don't win this game, Doug Peterson is out the door. Actually, it's usually people wait for that to be like a Thursday night game to fire someone midseason. I want to see who the next Jaguars Thursday game is. Because that, I bet you after that game they
Fireball
fire.
offense.
They don't have one for a little bit. They're lucky. Oh man, I don't know if they'll
Yeah,
get Thursday for a while.
Doug's looking out. The
But here's the good news: the Bears got
bye
the
week.
Jags next week. Woo!
Oh, if they pick up this win, we're set.
We need it. We need them to win this one.
Next game, we got AFC East matchup, another divisional, probably the worst one on the slate. I mean, if you're watching the Dolphins on Monday night, I thought Huntley would add another layer to this offense, a little bit of that dual threat. But I mean, McDaniel just doesn't seem like he knows what's going on when Tua gets injured, and this team goes from one of the top teams in the league to arguably one of the worst teams,
It's
if
a
not the
shame.
worst team in the league. So I mean, not to get too much into it, but I like the Patriots. in this matchup. I know they're just 1-3, but they played the top two teams according to PFF, and not a single team past the middle. So I mean, they've been playing a lot of tough matchups thus far this season. So I like the Patriots here. I think 1-3. They're not a great football team, but just they've been getting beaten up by some really good competition. Like the Niners needed that game last week to get back to 500. So I like the Patriots here at plus 1.5, regardless of kind of what happens in the quarterback room in Miami.
Yeah, I got a feeling that this line's going to move drastically after this game just because the Dolphins look so terrible. Yeah, I think it's really hard to say the Patriots don't win this game. Um, the Dolphins have nothing going for them in offense. They really can't push the ball downfield. Their biggest weapons and their biggest strength this offense is the ability to stretch the field with Waddle and Hill. And when you don't have a quarterback that can push the ball downfield and can't make downfield throws, you lose all of that relative advantage in your offense. So now they're trying to hand the ball off to these guys and throw quick short passes and make them make space. But when the defense knows that you can play everything in front of you, it's such a different dynamic than when you actually have to fear a 60-yard Tyreek Hill bomb, which you just know is impossible. You can let him run with 5 yards of separation. The odds that Huntley puts the ball on the money or even close to him is very little. So the defense gets to have such a paradigm shift where it really puts this Dolphins offense at a disadvantage. It's a long-winded way to say that, of course, where I'm on the Patriots too.
Love it. But yeah, I think that's all we got for that one. Next matchup, we got the 1-3 Browns heading to Washington to take on the 3-1 Commanders. I was overly confident on the Cardinals last week,
Yeah,
and
me too.
Jaden Daniels has taught me a lesson. He's the highest completion percentage through 4 games among all QBs since 1950.
Wild.
I mean, he's defied pretty much all the expectations for a rookie. If he even stays anywhere near the track he's on right now, he's going to
Hmm.
already surpass CJ Stroud's best rookie season just the year
Awesome.
after. So, yeah, I mean, if we take our logic into play, I mean, it tells me to take the Browns. But from what I've seen from this Washington team and the fact that they've punted the ball like twice in the last 3 games or whatever that stat is, like, I can't keep losing against the Commanders. So Jaden Daniels is hitting my official no bet list for
That's a great. I was really ready to just pile on the Browns here, which will probably still be my pick. But that's a great point where you just can't keep betting against these guys. Jaden Daniels keeps defying the odds. You know what I didn't? This is what I took into account on Sunday, which made me change our pick in that league against the spread. Cliff Kingsbury revenge game. I didn't even take that into account.
yeah, he got
Uh,
game
he's
ball for that
been
game.
he's been having a terrific season uh, as the offensive coordinator there. And really, it's just impossible, but should be getting considered for coach of the year with what he's doing with Jaden Daniels right now. It's just unbelievable. Just because they now have, and you could have said the same thing about Bobby Slowick last year with the Texans. Yeah, it makes no sense at -3. It's almost as fishy as -2.5, just slightly less.
Yeah,
As these guys, like, what tells you that Washington shouldn't steamroll these guys. They've been putting up points left and right. Uh, they've been winning games and exceeding expectations all year long, while the Browns have been doing the exact opposite. I don't even know how the Browns are going to compete with these guys, but the fact that Vegas is saying these two teams are even is really telling. I'm going to go with you and take your advice that this is definitely a no bet list against the Washington team, but I think the Browns +3 is the move here.
yeah.
I'm
No, I mean,
befuddled
my head tells me the Browns. I just like I can't keep betting against Jaden Daniels and just seeing him put up another historic performance every week and just being like,
yeah,
oh, like, yeah, let me just do it again.
yeah, for real.
I know
I
I've
we're
just do
both
it so many times.
yeah, we're both on the Commanders here, and rightfully so.
Next game, got an AFC West matchup, and these two teams, I'm very surprised to see they're both sitting at 2-2 on the season, and one of these teams is going to come away with a winning record heading into Week 6.
Wild.
But I mean, I'll let you go first in this one. I do have a side that I'm taking, unless you want me to kick us off.
Yeah, this is a real ugly one. With yeah, obviously a super low total. I gotta look at the injuries for this team because the Raiders were without uh Crosby, and I think without Devontae Adams too. So
Yeah, he's
let's
been
see
beat
what
up.
let's see if those guys are back. But if not, I'm definitely on the Broncos then. I like the way that Bo Nix has looked in this offense enough, really with his legs. Giving that offense a new wrinkle and new dynamic that they haven't had in a few years past. Given his um, track record in college and just really the performance historically of quarterbacks his age as a rookie season, kind of surprised he hasn't turned the ball over a little bit more, but he's been fairly disciplined enough where I'm impressed with that too. I'm going to take Bo Nix and his running ability. And really, what I've liked too is his reliance on Cortland Sutton, who I think has long been underrated as a receiver, and really just kind of criminal the hand that he's been dealt in his career. Because I do think he's a pretty talented receiver. But the fact that he's leaning on him as his number one guy, I think that bodes well for them too. I won't. I mean, right now I'm going to say that I'm picking the Broncos, but definitely subject to change based on any key guys coming back from the Raiders. I think the real key guy there would be Devontae Adams over Crosby, which
Yeah.
is maybe a hot take.
I'm also on the Broncos, and I've got some fun stats for the Raiders. So
Heck yeah.
they're the number one team in rushing defense. So I mean, think about that Ravens game when we saw them come back, beat the Ravens a couple
You're
weeks
saying
ago.
rush defense like rushing
Yeah, like stopping the run.
no like run yards per game, yards per
According
carry.
to PFF.
Okay, yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, they're last in coverage defense. So
Wow.
they're number one at stopping the run, according to PFF. Last at stopping the pass. I mean, from what we've seen from this Broncos team, I know the passing game hasn't been great, but Sean Payton's gonna keep making Bo Nix throw the ball. And I mean, Dalton had his insane first performance back against the Raiders. Like we've seen teams pass with success against them. I think Bo Nix should have one of his better games in his
I
rookie
love that.
season this week. And on the flip side of that, the Broncos have let up the fourth least passing yards, and the Raiders are second to last in rush yards. So both of these teams want to pass the ball, and the Broncos are great against stopping the pass, where the Raiders are rated the worst team in the league.
I
So
like it a lot. That makes me even more confident in the pick.
I'm all over the Broncos. Sounds like we both are. But next game, we got the 1-3 Cardinals who continue to drop games. I mean, I thought this team looked really fun. I'm not gonna fully sell on the season yet for them, but they're heading to San Francisco, who's now sitting at 2-2, 7.5 point favorites. I mean, I feel like they're almost telling you to bet on the Cardinals with this one, but I want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I'm with you where I didn't think the Cardinals would start the season 1-4, and I still think they've looked better at times than 1-4. Hard to make that argument when they were only able to muster up a handful, maybe 14 points against the Commanders defense that really hasn't looked all that great this year. Um, I mean, to win the game, you got to take the Niners here. They're still not out of the woods. They're 2-2. Very similar situation to the Ravens, where you still can't afford to lose a game. They're just lucky that they are playing a much weaker opponent, albeit a divisional opponent in the Cardinals. I'm telling you, I'm seeing a backdoor cover here for the Cardinals, but I can't see it in my crystal ball that they win this game, even at 1-3.
Yeah, I mean that's my I like the Cardinals, and maybe not everybody else or the rest of America is as into the Cardinals as I am, but giving them that plus 7.5 with the hook on top of the touchdown, it's like begging me to take the
I
Cardinals on
agree.
it. But it almost feels like one of those. I mean, you've been talking about the traps. Like I feel like I'm almost a fool for taking the Cardinals, and I just like convinced myself that the Patriots at plus 10.5 was good value.
Yeah, I was on the Niners there. I think this is a little bit different. I think when you get a team, I mean, the Niners are the number one team in PFF overall grade. And the Cardinals, while they're not the 13th, they're not really dogs in terms of bottom of the league status. Uh, I don't think this line is begging. I think you just like the Cardinals a lot more than most people. I think most people will look at these teams and like the Niners more. So I think you're just on the right side of it because I'm on the Cardinals spread too. I just don't see him winning it.
Yeah, I mean the Niners offense got a little healthy, but the defense is still banged up. Um,
Yep.
Fred Warner questionable. Safety Hufanga also out. So I mean, these injuries are definitely do pile up for the Niners.
Hmm.
All right, let's move on. We got the 2-2 Packers heading to Los Angeles to play the now 1-3 Rams. Packers fell short of that comeback against the Vikings. If they pulled that off, would have been by far the best game of the week. I was tuned in at the end there. If Tucker Kraft didn't fumble it, I think they could have done it. But nonetheless, they're 2-2. But I mean, he was sloppy. But even when you got Jordan Love back, we saw how dynamic he was, getting those wide receivers involved. Like, yes, they won both their games with Malik Willis, but getting those wide receivers involved, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks. This offense just looks a lot better as long as they can hold on to the ball at least. But in this one, Puck or not Puck, Cup and mixed together, but Cup and
Yeah.
are still going to be in. So I mean, you're seeing a pretty similar Rams team from last week, kind of led by Kyron, some Tutu Atwell in the passing game. But I mean, it's hard for me to not go with the Packers. I think 3.5 is a pretty fair spread. But yeah, I mean, are you convincing yourself to take the Rams at home?
Definitely not the money line. You're not going to see Jordan Love commit as many turnovers as he did last week. It's the Brett Favre jersey effect will do it to you. But we've seen that he can make a lot of throws with a lot of guys in this offense. Wick's really stepping up in Watson's absence. Jaden Reed still as explosive as ever. Um, I like the Packers to win this game. 3.5 seems tough. Given a total this high, the Rams have a real capability to put up points. Is what this line is saying to me, at least. I'm not a big believer in the Rams. I honestly would have thought the spread would be larger. I can't tell you what I would pick, quite honestly, with the spread. I'm leading Packers just because I think they have a real propensity, much more than the Rams, to put up points and put up points quickly. And I don't think they're going to drop two in a row. Again, I talk about good quarterbacks not losing two games in a row. I do think Jordan Love's a really good quarterback. I really like the play calling that Matt LaFleur has there in Green Bay. And right now, the Rams simply just don't have the playmakers on offense, I think, to put up and match what this Green Bay offense can do.
Yeah, I mean it's a big if, but if they could keep Stafford relatively upright, like I mean, watching that game last week, I was honestly scared every time Stafford had the ball in his hands. Like
Yeah,
he has the time, he hits his receivers right on the money. I mean, he's moving the ball down the field even with limited weapons. So this one's tough for me. But
I
I
agree.
mean, my head tells me lean Packers, but I mean, plus 3.5, maybe you take the Rams at home in a get right game, even
That's what I'm saying.
count some players. Next up, we got the Giants. They're going to be heading to Seattle. This line, you could definitely see it change after the Monday night games. Malik Neighbors with a concussion, but I mean, we might see him here. That was last Thursday.
Yeah.
If they bring him back a little bit early, we'll see how that kind of all plays out. But I mean, the one thing that could really get me behind the Giants in this game is they have a whole extra 4 days between playing last Thursday or this last Thursday and then the Seahawks also playing on Monday. So I do like the Giants just having a lot of extra prep time, but I mean, as far as the players on the field go, it's hard to really tell yourself the Giants are going to beat the Seahawks in Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to be really dependent on is Malik Neighbors going to play. This is the NFL 5 or 6 years ago. The fact that he's given a long week with Thursday to Sunday would mean he's probably definitely playing. Not so much anymore. So keep an eye on that. It's hard because right now when the Giants have been getting their plays through big plays in the passing game, but this Seattle secondary has been so stingy, and I think the best in the league, both on paper and according to PFF too. They just are a true shutdown unit right now. Granted, they haven't played the best passing attacks in this league, and the Giants definitely fit in that category of not a too formidable passing attack. But they're even without Neighbors, they're going to struggle, and so will Daniel Jones. Where they have a chance is running the ball up the gut and playing their front seven against the Seahawks because the Seahawks front seven is kind of mired with injuries right now. And on top of that, again, those guys that are playing in new roles have a really short week playing on Monday and getting back out there on Sunday. Hard for me not to take the Seahawks here. They look really explosive and knowing how to use guys like Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, and now a little more a resurgence of Jackson Smith and Jigba now in a second year. This is less of a one-trick pony offense when you know what they're going to do. A little bit more of a slot threat there. I'm going to take the Seahawks here. I do think what you mentioned, the fresh legs and really bodies after this Thursday night game for the Giants bodes well as the Seahawks are going to be rusty and sore after a hard-fought game against the Lions here. So
Yeah,
I'll go with the old Giants spread. Seahawks win here. Low total.
I agree. I agree.
The other team is going to put up a lot of points, they're saying.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We got Sunday night and Monday night left. We got the 2-2 Cowboys heading to the 3-1 Steelers. Steelers sitting as 1.5 point favorites at home in this one.
That's absolutely ridiculous. And
You think so?
the Cowboys are going to win this game. Oh my God.
Cowboys, they're so one-dimensional though. They're
Yeah.
last in the NFL in rushing yards. I mean, we talked about it before the season started, how bad that run game would be.
Yeah, we did. They're going
But
to win this
yeah,
game.
I mean, yeah, it's also tough to trust Fields. I mean, the main thing is Dallas' defense has to get better. They need to play more like they should be. But yeah, if they do that, then they should win the game.
This is me just reading into personnel and less into performance for the Steelers. It's kind of the epitome of these two teams. Cowboys always have better personnel and underperform. Steelers always have subpar personnel and overperform. But I don't think if they can get Micah Parsons going in this game, Justin Fields just isn't going to be able to do it against that pressure. They can dial up some pass rush with four people. I think that the Steelers are going to struggle, and I don't even care about the run game for Dallas. I think between Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and like Jake Ferguson, they can get it done. I don't suspect the Steelers to put up many points this game. I think this game's going to go under, but I like the Cowboys to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers haven't put up more than 24 points this year, so the Cowboys at least put up some points. More likely than not, they're gonna win the game, and it's not going to be a shootout. But last up, we got our Monday night matchup, the 2-2 Saints, and they're still rated way up there in PFF, but I think a lot of that's due to their first two games of the
I think so.
season. They're heading to the 4-0 Chiefs, who might manage or did just manage to get out of September without a loss this season. But
Hmm.
they did lose Rashi Rice in this last game. How much do you think that impacts them going forward? And do you think they drop this one at home, or are they still gonna keep trying along?
It's hard to say that they drop it, but they're bound to sometime. The Saints, while they look really good, the Chiefs are definitely on real upset alert. But the way the Chiefs have played this year, you could see them getting some explosive plays with Rashid Shaheed or even Kamara, who's looked a lot better than I would have thought given his age out of the backfield. And of course, you got Chris Olave, who's a real legitimate threat and kind of an underdog here with I think not getting as much praise as he might deserve at times. With the Chiefs, Kelsey's lost a step, as we all know. He does draw a lot of attention though, but Rashid Rice being out really is going to hurt them. And Pacheco's out too. So you're already seeing Kareem Hunt start to get more of the lion's share of that running back load. But, is he a step too slow now to be the Kareem Hunt of old, even behind this great Chiefs offensive line? If there's ever going to be a game the Chiefs can win, it's this one, just given the fact they got Mahomes and Reed. They should be probably favorites every game, no matter the personnel that's on the field. But I'm loving the Saints plus 5.5 here. Just, just think that this Chiefs offense is going to be sluggish. You saw it against the Chargers. I think they're due to even underperform even more potentially, given that Rashee Rice is out. Going to need to get really crafty with Xavier Worthy, which is very possible given Andy Reid's track record calling great plays.
Right. No, I'm with you though. I'm gonna lean with Kamara. I mean, limited weapons on both sides of the ball, but I like the Saints defense a little bit more, and plus 5.5 is just a little too much for me to pass up.
Yeah, hard for me to say they win, but I like the cover here.
Yeah, but that's it for this week. Any parting words, was
Watch out for those trap games. They're there every week. There always are for a team that's been rolling to only be favored by 2.5. That is like the biggest trap game ever. Like always. But they don't always lose. Sometimes you can buy into the trap and win. But more often than not, I feel like they don't.
yeah, love the Luch. All right, good luck to everybody in week 5.